Europe is rearming. Europe is rearming, and you need to know this, especially with everyone. And all of them are in Washington D.C. right now, talking about the idea of helping out Ukraine. But the speed of weapon factory expansion is quite incredible. This is happening as everyone is in Washington, D.C. right now. And I'm going to make a few points, which I think we should be aware of it, obviously, is right now everyone is in Washington, D.C., although they're going home. But what's going on in the background is quite extensive and quite interesting and quite scary in a way because maybe JD Vance waking a giant there in Europe. I will tell you that right now, first of all, they're making unified fronts, which that's easy. You just show up, go in the plane. But what's happening right now is there's a humongous amount of Europe is building for war, right? As armed factories expand at triple speed. There is a tremendous amount of activities right now over there. The building activity of European arms site has gone into overdrive since Russia's full-scale invasion in 2022. And the data shows that Europe long promised defense revival driven by an injection of public subsidy is happening now. So they are building their factories, they are getting ready, they are building up, and frankly, they need to do it. I will tell you that right now, the European situation in terms of weapon factory is a little bit sad. The speed, if you were to compare what they have right now, right, in terms of their arm production versus the Russian right now, they're going to invade. We'll see what they invade. But basically, if you were to compare the European forces with the Russian forces, I can't believe we're talking about these things, right? We're talking about war every day now. Let's be careful about these kind of talks. Talk about peace, 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 sure. But in the meantime, everybody's preparing for war because the Russian forces right now are ready and resilient. There's approximately 1.1 million reservists, a formidable mobilized pool. Recruitment momentum in Europe, well, technically they've got 3 million men, but frankly, let's put it this way: Europe struggled. Europe struggled to deploy significant forces abroad. For example, they're planning for 64,000 strong peacekeeping forces, at the time of Ukraine, and it was scaled back. They couldn't get they got scaled back to 25,000 forces, so they couldn't get their forces together. Europe remains fragmented. There's national commands. Everybody is all over the place. So technically speaking, not that ready for war quite yet. While Russia is very, very busy. Approximately 1 million more. They've been fighting. The production output for Russian outpaces NATO. Like the NATO Secretary General noted that Russia produces as much ammunition in 3 months than NATO does in an entire year, underlying a stock production gap. This is serious. This is very serious because obviously the Russians are way ahead of the European and NATO is kind of dragging behind. What do you care? Well, what happens when they catch up? Russia is just going to stay there. There's rapid manufacture of advanced hardware. Russia is set to churn out 15. Exactly. Russia is set to churn out 1,500 tanks, 3,200 armored vehicles, and 200 missiles in 2025 alone. Its military expenditure hit $150 billion in 2024. Okay. Strategic, President Putin is pushing to boost European arm export despite the share dropping generally from 21%. So basically, Russia is way, way ahead of everyone else. Russia dominates in scale and in speed, with state-run defense industry producing large quantities of tanks, missiles. And we think that he's just going to forget all this with Ukraine and go home and it's done. at a scale Europe currently cannot match. Europe is catching up, but gradually. So weapon deliveries via collective European is happening. So what's going on right now? So we know that they're lacking, but I will tell you, data shows that Europe long promised defense revival driven by public subsidy is happening. Therefore, defense stocks. It comes as EU government argue over how to sustain armed deliveries to Kiev. Even more than 1,000 radar satellite passes, the FTS track changes at sites associated with ammunition, and they're seeing movements. So the Europeans are building up. They are moving up. The scale and spread of the detected work suggests a generalized shift in rearmament, moving Europe from just-in-time peacetime production towards building an industrial base for more sustained war footing. Hey, they're going to be spending 5% of their GDP on, factories and weapons. So what does this mean? Well, be careful what you wish for because you may get it. J.D. Vance was there at the beginning of the year telling them, guys, we're not going to protect you forever. Do your own thing. And that's what they're doing. They're doing their own thing. But, what are you really creating? You're going to have Russia with a bunch of weapons. You're going to have Europe with lots of weapons. China, forget it. The U.S., obviously. So all these people are culminating towards what exactly? Weapons have to be used at some point. And it's moving now. In the past, yesterday when they went to Washington, it was kind of, interesting seeing them, being nice to Trump, and Trump loves it, and I think it's great. The only thing is, now I think, although I will say one thing, be careful because even though it sounded all and nicely, the French president yesterday said something very, very interesting about the meeting yesterday about Putin. And he basically says, and if you listen to what he says, and you believe, and you could see the tone basically, he delivered a stark message. That was yesterday. Okay. Do you think before society government system program there was one God and then split different groups in different ways and different religion, different names? They better rebuild their fallout shelter and stock up on more food. Hey, John, don't joke around. Don't joke around. All these people are, when I worry when people talk about peace 24/7, right? Why? There's a concern about war. So basically, what Macron, the French president, said yesterday, he basically delivered a stark message, describing Putin as an ogre at our gates. And he has no weapons yet, okay? Wait until the Europeans got real weapon and a predator. That's how he called Putin yesterday. Probably not the easiest thing to get things done. Putin has rarely honored his commitments. He has been constantly a force for destabilization, seeking to redraw borders. For his own survival, Putin needs to keep on eating. That's not nice. Signaling that Putin pursues aggression to remain under control. While France may not face immediate attack, he warned he is a threat to Europe. Let's not be naive. Now, these are very heavy words, especially a day after, they think that they're going to be talking to Putin. In another statement, Macron conveys continued skepticism about Putin's willingness for peace. So basically, we're wasting our time. We shouldn't be talking. When I look at the situation, the facts, I don't see President Putin very willing to get peace now, but perhaps I am too pessimistic. Now, of course, what they're doing, they're literally play along with Trump right now and his Nobel Peace Prize. And they're basically saying, we want the U.S. in the middle of this fight. We want them with us. We're not going to really, do anything. We're not going to do things too many things by ourselves here, right? So Russia has a limited nuclear attack plan already, and for many years. Well, but these people don't want to do a nuclear war because nobody wins, right? They just want to spend money, and they want to, they want to make their country great again, and that's what's happening right now. And so basically, what the French president says is that Putin is unworthy and aggressive. Now you have to understand also why is he saying things like that, right? But because yesterday they were all overshadowed by Trump. Right? They looked like a bunch of children around daddy, and he said, "I like you, and I like you, and I like you, and I like everyone. I mean, everybody's great. We're gonna take care of everything. We're gonna take care of business, and everything is gonna be fine in the end." And of course, they were there looking at him, and kind of even Zelensky had to change his suit and put a suit on because he was told to put a suit on. So, but so he goes home. He said, "Well, I'm my own man. I could do my own thing. I'm going to tell you right now that I can't trust this guy. We can't do anything with him. Don't trust him. Blah blah blah." Meaning that maybe we need some U.S. forces in the middle to protect us against Trump, against Putin. Now, be careful. I said that yesterday, and in fact, it's coming out already today. It's coming up today because the MAGA people say, whoa, 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 hold on here. What are we doing? What are we doing? We're not gonna get into, we're not doing this. We are not doing this. That happened yesterday after the discussion. Basically, there's a domestic backlash following the Oval Office. What happened? Well, Vice President Trump proposed offering Ukraine security guarantee and future Zelensky-Putin summit. But some within the MAGA people, right, are saying, including Steve Bannon, they're resistant, fearing it could morph into a NATO-style commitment to Ukraine. Say, no, I'm just, there's a mixed tone. Though J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio, I told you that yesterday, but you notice that Marco Rubio is all over the place now. You hear him a lot more than before. Actively involved in coordinating diplomacy with Ukraine and Russia. They are toned with skepticism from parts of the Republican base. Despite more cordial optics during the meeting, a lack of clarity around what security guarantees. What do you mean by that? Actively entail, especially regarding U.S. troops' involvement. They say, hey, this guy is serious. He wants a Nobel Peace Prize. He's going to put some troops in Ukraine. Right? Is that what we want? Because this is where it's heading towards, very slowly. And basically the president says, guys, I want my Nobel Peace Prize here. And the only way I'm going to get it is we have peace. And they know, because now, unfortunately, and I'm going to put out a video on that, because they know that he wants a Nobel Peace Prize, it's important. Now, of course, you're going to say, but who cares? I mean, these people are doing their thing. That's not going to impact me. Well, let me tell you. Let me give you a little bit of a history. And you know who spoke about yesterday as well? Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton. What do we care about Bill Clinton? Well, you should care about what he said yesterday. And I'll tell you what. And this is what this channel is about. And don't forget to subscribe, by the way. So basically, what Bill Clinton said yesterday is that he's acknowledged, although he didn't say yesterday, it was reported yesterday, that according to, it was from Newsmax, an interview with a former U.S. ambassador to Ukraine, Clinton has previously expressed deep remorse about urging Ukraine to relinquish its nuclear arsenal as part of the 1994 Bucharest Memorandum, because that's when the president was Bill Clinton. He referenced Clinton's remarks, stating that Clinton called the agreement a mistake and said he feels terrible, acknowledging that encouraging Ukraine to denuclearize may have severely harmed its long-term security. So maybe you're responsible for all these deaths. You see, this is where you need to understand what's happening around you, because it will impact you. Not today, not tomorrow, but depending what they decide on, it could be something. Bill Clinton today now, 20 years after, no, 30 years after, saying, well, he expressed regret. I feel terrible about urging Ukraine to give up its nuclear weapons and regards the agreement as a mistake. Maybe I should let them keep their weapons so nobody would attack them, like Pakistan. Anybody's bothering Pakistan? No one bothering Pakistan, right? For obvious reason, because no one wants to mess around with a nuclear weapon country. And so now Clinton is saying, well, I feel so sorry. So unfortunately, these people make decision today, which later on, when they're gone, and you gonna take on the medal and you're gonna have to deal with it, or people that you know, whatever. So that's why it's very important. Now, the other thing that Clinton also said, although he didn't say it yesterday, but I'm always reminded of that, is he was also responsible for the Glass-Steagall Act. Basically, he said, you know what, banks shouldn't really be tied, separate from investment bank. We should allow banks to merge and have a big fund. And he allowed that to happen. And later on, he realized, well, maybe, he later acknowledged regrets, particularly by allowing risky derivatives to go unregulated, right? And he basically said, maybe I shouldn't have never allowed the Glass-Steagall Act to be split apart, which kept banks safe. And then we had the 2008 financial crisis, right? So right now, you need to understand what these people are doing, because there's going to be an impact on all this at some point. And that is what you need to worry about, because Europe, believe it or not, and the reason we know that is because there was an extensive analysis done by the FT, and they're basically going around and, if you look at the total arms production site from 2021 to 2025, the total area of arm production site where radar shows changes, because they literally use the radar to take a look at it, it went from 0.79 million of square meters to 2.8 in 2025. So you don't hear too much about it, but there's more and more and more. And having said that, that's the reason why if you look at the some of the stocks, defense stocks, I mean, in Europe have gone a lot. In fact, I'm doing some recommendation on my membership channel, which you could join. And it's only $5 a month, and I give you updates every day as to what's going on in the market and some of my recommendation based on everything that I see every day for you, like this, right? So basically, there's a lot more sites, building. So they're becoming, and it's all over. If you were to look at the map, you've got stuff in Finland, Norway, United Kingdom, Spain, Italy, Greece, Romania. I mean, obviously nothing in Ukraine. In Germany, lots of site with radar detected expansion, start with no detected expansion. So they are pushing forward. They're going at it. They are creating momentum, because in terms of the speed of the factory expansion, Europe arm production infrastructure is scaling up 3 times faster than during peacetime, reflecting a significant reindustrialization effort. Over 7 million square meters of new factory infrastructure has emerged across 150 sites. Okay? Key players are leading their expansion. We're talking about Rheingal, MBDA, underpinning by a 500 million euro EU subsidy through the Act of Support. Now, yesterday, Zelensky said, hey, you know what? The Europeans are going to give me $100 billion, and I want to buy some weapon from you, Donald. Can the U.S. sell me some weaponry, please, so that I could fight with the Russians? No, I mean, I'm trying to get a peace prize. So I'm not going to encourage buying weapons and put people in harm's way. And I think, basically what the president is kind of saying, we're gonna do some security guarantees over the sky, whatever. No, we're not going to go in. Because don't forget, what's happening is, again, the big topic is that the MAGA people are saying, do not bring any American soldiers in Ukraine, right? We agree on that. We're not starting another war, right? Let them do their thing. We're out of here. It's America great again, but we're not making Europe great again. That is not going to happen. For example, Sweden is building its first TNT. You know what that is? In 30 years, expected to open in 2027, producing 4,500 tons annually, compared to Europe existing 12,000 tons and Russia 50,000 tons. Russia is producing 50,000 tons of uh, TNT. This is insane. This is insane. Ammunition. The expansion is transitioning rapidly from 300,000 rounds to 2 million within a few years. The Readiness 2030 plan launched in March 2025, this year after J.D. Vance told them, you are on your own. Maybe later on, Vance may say, maybe I should have never said that because now I create a powder cake. Of course, you could say, but this is so useless. The only thing we're talking about this, right, is because, you know, what do you think we're going to do? When all these things fail, they take you to war. There's already a cure for cancer, but there's no money for big pharma to cure diseases. There's already a cure for cancer? They could cure, but big pharma could lose big. What do you think they're going to choose? Well, anyways, there was a cure for cancer. I think, they don't want to spend the money. The best cure for cancer really is prevention. And they make a lot more money fixing cancer than different topic. Ammunition policy framework. The Readiness 2030 plan launched in March aims to unlock up to $800 billion for defense over the coming years. It includes flexible budget. So during 2022, for example, France defense manufacturers decided to expand as well. Strategic industrial reform. The EU aimed to steer 50% of military procurement towards European firms. Spend the money in Europe. Make Europe great again. Make America great again. Make Russia great. Make China great again. Make India great again. How do you think this ends up eventually? You could not all be great at the same time, at the expense of others, right? That's not going to happen. So what you're seeing right now is all these countries are retracting amongst themselves, closing their borders, and looking over the round as to what is the other guy doing, and all this for what, right? Of course, you're going to say, well, that's because Russia invaded Ukraine. And when you hear the French president says, well, that's because I think he's an ogre and he's not going to stop. He wants to control everything. He wants to take over Europe. That is not reasonable, right? It's very hard to believe that that's what he wants, okay? He's basically told you what he wants. He says, stay away from me, right? Why are you getting closer and closer to my border? And now when they're saying, well, you know what? We're going to fix this up. What we're going to do, we're going to put soldiers, European soldiers in Ukraine. Which part of no you didn't understand? Okay, exactly, Carlos. In fact, in my membership, new membership, I'm going to be making recommendations every day to take advantage of all these things because obviously, unless there's World War III and nothing matters, these are great opportunities to invest in certain sectors, right? Look what's happening in the U.S. The U.S. is dying for rare earth mineral. How do I take advantage of this, right? I need to take advantage of all these things. Well, that's how you take advantage of it, right? You have to understand what's happening. Otherwise, you just sit there and take it, and you never want to do that. You want to be in charge, and you want to understand what is happening, right? So basically, with the French president saying what he says, that is not sending a good message for Putin, which has no intention of stopping. Okay? Because they all know that the U.S. cannot put troops on the ground. They all know that Putin's not going to give up. They all know that Zelensky is not going to just give up 20-30% of his country. So what are we doing? What is really going on? That's what you need to worry about. What is really happening? Okay? And what's really happening is all these people are positioning their interests. That's what you want. Their interest is what matters the most. They're there to protect the interests. Trump is there. His interest is he wants the Nobel Peace Prize. Okay. What does JD Vance? Well, JD Vance wants to make sure that the MAGA people are not upset, and therefore we're not putting any troops on the ground. Okay. What does European want? The European they want to remain relevant because soon they're going to have a huge army. Not tomorrow, but at some point, because they're building very fast. What Russia wants to keep what he has. So no war, no peace. No, none of this is going to happen. It's impossible. Not all of these people can now work together. Now, so why is Putin still talking? Because he wants a relationship with Trump. Because he wants to keep Trump away from the European. That's exactly what's happening. So at some point, what's going to happen is there's going to be a lot of issues with it, and frankly. Frankly, what's going to happen is we are going to have to decide, and what is important. Now, of course, when you have these periods of uncertainty, right, where people are upset and nobody wants to know what's going on, well, that's what you need to really try to understand what they're doing. Okay. Now, as far as the Russian forces ready and resilience and the army production power, I mean, no match right now, right? Now, the Europeans are saying that they want to put together a multinational peacekeeping force in the works. European leaders, France and Europe, are spearheading plans for a multinational security and peacekeeping operation in Ukraine, potentially involving 10,000 to 30,000 troops. Although no American ground troops will be part of this force, the U.S. expects to contribute air support if needed. But that's not so much putting boots on the ground. What you want to know is what happens if something happens. What kind of guarantees? Is it a guarantee you're going to be there, or you guarantee you're going to fight for me? That's a question that's not being answered. So Europe is taking the lead. They're training capacity. They're doing deployment, but still, we are not there yet, because in 1994, when they gave up their weapons, they said, we're going to be doing it, and they never did it. They never did it. They basically let Russia invade, and that was it. So U.S. Defense Commissioner, since Moscow's invasion, Europe's annual capacity to produce ammunition has increased from 300,000 to about 2 million by the end of this year. The Rheinmetall plant expansion will account for a big part of this growth. The company said its annual production capacity for 155 million rounds was set to rise from 70 to 1.1 million in 2027. That's a lot of bullets. Other public spending has also played a significant role at the German headquarters and missiles. So what's going on is Europe is basically ramping up, okay? Russia already ramped up, huge amount of energy, huge amount of forces. Remember, the production power, and this is the NATO Secretary General noted that Russia produces as much ammunition in 3 months than NATO produces an entire year. Okay? And Russia is set to churn out 1,500 tanks. So they're going to do all this and then they're going to go home? My friends, no, we're heading towards something here. I don't know what it is, unless you get there and then you stop and you don't do anything. Really? That's what's going to happen? We're not going to do anything at all? We're just going to look at each other and not fight? Don't forget, the U.S. is highly dependent on China because it needs all these things. What happens when it can't get it? The U.S. is going to have to go to China to get it, or trying to build it in the U.S. But what I see, what's going on in the White House right now, it feels to me that they're probably giving up on this idea. I mean, they're getting money coming in and all these, but they realize, what, we're never gonna get there. I want my Peace Prize and I want to go home. I mean, that's the concern that I'm seeing here. And the reason I'm seeing that is because I'm seeing Rubio out there more, right? He's coming out and he's talking more. And JD Vance is making comments. And all these people are starting to take over because basically the president is got another toy, and he's looking at the peace price because he realized, it's going to take forever. I don't have that kind of time. Imagine you're in this space. You're 79 years old. You know this is it. You're going to wait 3 more years to wait for those plans to come over to be built? Do you actually think that's what he's thinking about? I don't think so. So that's not going to work. That's not going to work at all. I believe that at the end of the day, someone needs to make a decision here. And Ankino. Hi, Ankino. So what I want from my subscribers today is I want you to realize what's happening. That is important for you to, not to be, let me say entertaining, I guess, but I want you to understand what's happening because through the understanding is the fact that you could prepare for it. How you prepare? Well, you basically prepare with in terms of a job, in terms of the stock market, understanding, or traveling, or whatever. By 2027, Europe is going to have a lot more weapons than today. And do you think that Putin's going to pull out? He's going to get out of I don't see him getting out of Ukraine for a while because, frankly, there's nothing for him to get out. And, of course, when you hear what the French president is saying, that he's an ogre, that he's basically, let me tell you what he said, but it's very, concerning that a day after the meeting, he comes on and starts badgering the witness, basically, by being very... So basically, the French president delivered a stark, and remember, he was sitting right next to Trump yesterday, standing. He delivered a stark message describing Putin as an ogre at our gates, as a predator. So basically, I think he wants to also, be more of a statement by saying, "Hey, we're not just going to sit there and take it." I mean, Trump took all the limelight yesterday. We look like a bunch of children. He's not our daddy for real. He has been constantly a force of destabilization, seeking to withdraw borders to expand power. He said, for his own survival, Putin needs to keep on eating. Imagine, you're gonna make peace with this? You're gonna have peace with him. While France may not have immediate attack, he warned he's a threat to Europe. Let's not be naive, because right now Europe is mostly a bunch of merchants stuck together, so there's nothing they could do. Going forward, some concern that, they're pushing the idea. Now, of course, you have to understand also, right? Why is he saying that? Why he's saying that? Because he probably has interest in weapons manufacture, right? You want to whip it up. You want to whip people up so that they say, well, yeah, that's right, we're going to be attacked. So, in fact, at one point, they wanted to take some of the people's money to invest in because they need to find, I think, $900 billion in Europe to build those weapons, right? So, what is he doing? Does he really mean that? No, what he really means, he wants you to start spending money on weapons so that the weapon manufacturers in Europe make money. Don't figure out, these people have all interests. They actually believe that Putin wants to invade Europe, make Russia, you know what I mean? It's not reasonable. But it does work. People get scared, and then they look at it, and they say, oh my God, we're going to be invaded, so therefore we need to... It doesn't work that way, okay? Now, in the U.S., though, one thing you need to kind of be aware is the fact that the MAGA people are starting to come out of the woodwork, okay? Basically, there's a domestic backlash happening here. President Trump proposed offering Ukraine security guarantees. And Steve Bannon yesterday, was saying, whoa, hold on a second here, okay? Hours of meeting in Washington, D.C. happened yesterday. On the home front, it could be more complicated when there's no specific yet on what exactly U.S. security guarantees might look like for Ukraine. Zelensky suggests this could be ironed out within 10 days. How do you know that? Even the vague allusion to them hints that MAGA may be careening towards another foreign policy divide. Now, there's been a few of them with Trump. The first one is when Trump said, okay, let's get into Iran. I said, why are we doing? The second one is when the administration decided to send weapons to Ukraine, or at least sell them. But you keep saying, I'm selling. I'm selling. I'm not sending. But you're still involved. Right? You can't just. It's not a box of candies that you send out. You gotta send advisors on how to use a weapon. This guy wants 100 billion of Patriot missiles. I mean, this thing is very difficult to run. Even the vague allusion to them hints that MAGA may be careening towards. In public, there are the few top-line getaways. The biggest are the security guarantees. And the reality is that Zelensky and Putin are hurling towards a bilateral meeting. The chancellor could happen within the summit within the next 2 weeks. After which, Trump intends to join Zelensky and put into trilateral meeting. What's happening? He's getting all excited. These people are meeting. They're going to talk. Then he's going to say, okay, I could see the Nobel Peace Prize. Well, all we need now is to make sure that you put your guys in the middle, right? So I have security guarantees. So you're going to give up 20% of your country? Yeah, I'll give it up. But are you going to put your men in the middle? Because don't forget, Zelensky is not a stupid man either. He knows what is doable and not doable. He's not going to give up his country either. Meaning that he knows that Trump probably can't get this done and he's going to have trouble doing it, but he still wants to appear that he's trying to do something, so he gets at least weapons, and he wants, you see how they work? You see, the mindset is amazing, right? The optimism of your president is to be taken seriously, French president said. So he considers he can get a deal done. It's great news, and we have to do whatever we can to have a great deal. Everybody's saying, yes, we could do it. We want to help our friends, but we don't want to do anything ourselves, frankly. Well, we're going to put some soldiers, but we can't fight the Russians. And then you have to say, but what do you mean by security guarantees? We already made security guarantees, and we made them exactly. So what do you mean by security guarantees? I know we keep hopping over that term, but this is extremely important because that could bring the U.S. into another war, believe it or not. Right? And I think Trump is saying, no, well, I would like to have my cake and eat it too. I would like to have peace, and I want to have but I don't want the U.S. involved too much. Well, what kind of involvement are you thinking about? How close do you want to get to the flame? Because you're getting closer, and within is because some of the MAGA people are coming out and say, whoa, take it easy, right? Trump world insiders are talking in private about yesterday's cascade of diplomatic meeting, and it's how perhaps they need to there is a reset, right? For the moment, Trump, so in his suit, the vibe was good, right? The European were a difference maker. Trump offered to go straight to a trilateral meeting. Basically, but what happened during the meeting in Alaska was, okay, security guarantees, Nobel Prize. Security guarantee, Nobel Peace Prize, okay? You're willing to give up the security guarantees or give so you can get, because basically what Trump needs to do, he needs to decide. Security guarantees, great. Peace prize. What does that mean when you say I'm going to give the security guarantees? It could impact you. Remember what happened to Bill Clinton, right? Now, 30 years later, say, maybe I should have never allowed them to do such a thing. Well, it's too late now. A bunch of people have died, and look at it. It remains unclear how big commitment the U.S. has on the line here. We haven't even started the discussion. The question is who participated in that percentage. But what's happening, though, what they're all commenting, really, quite frankly, is they're saying, but look how great it went. Everybody had a good time. Nobody got pissed. Everybody was dressed the way they were supposed to. So this is great. We're going to roll down slowly. Don't forget, I'm going to make a deal. Security guarantee. Yeah, security guarantee. My security guarantee. And of course, the more you think about it, the closer you get to the actual fact. You can't be half pregnant. You're gonna go all the way down. You're gonna meet with Putin, and people are gonna get all excited. The peace is over. The war is over, and we'll give up some territory. And then they're gonna come to Trump and say, okay, so what do you really mean when you say security guarantee? He's gonna say, well, I mean, will fly over the thing, and we'll make sure that nobody does anything else. But what if somebody does something? What are you gonna do? Well, I'm not gonna go to war. Oh, so what kind of, because the Ukrainian had that already. So they all know this, and yet they're going around. They're still going with it. Now you have to understand that Zelensky is doing it because he has been weakened quite a bit in the summer, because basically what happened there, he was trying to nullify the power of there's a big group over there, anti-corruption. He wanted to do away with it because his friend, well, he says his support, one of the guys there basically corrupted, probably, from everything that we read. Although he says he flew out of the country, he didn't want to come back. And Zelensky said, "No, this looks bad. Come back. I'm going to close this office of the corruption." And then the people said, "What? You can't do that." Even the Europeans said, "What do you mean you're going to close a corruption bureau? No, 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 no. You go. Neither leader is 100 up and up." But that's right, Didi. And this is the fun of it, but at least the interesting part of it is not so much to criticize, "Oh, you could have done this." No, 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 forget that, because they don't care about what you think. What you need to understand is what's really going on. What are they up to, and how is that going to impact me, if any? Because Zelensky obviously has been weakened. So what is he doing? Well, he's trying somehow to get something done. Somehow to keep Russia away. And all they're doing basically, they're gonna stay where they are. They're gonna rearm, and then they're gonna push Russia out. I mean, that's basically what it's gonna be like, right? And Russia knows that too. They just need time to rearm both sides. They want to get it on eventually, and unfortunately, this is very bad for the people living there for obvious reasons. It's very bad for business. Nothing gets built. You're always fighting and fighting. But why do we always get to that point, right? Why are we always fighting? Why are there always wars? Well, because people don't want to learn. People don't want to understand. It's a lot easier not to understand, like most people, quite frankly. You just listen to the news, and they tell you he's bad, he's good, and you believe it. Like, for example, they were saying yesterday that Zelensky, that the European went to Washington to protect Zelensky against Trump and JD. I mean, who are you talking about? 10-year-old kids, right? So you need to understand what's happening, because it will impact you ultimately, right? If there's a war over there, I mean, these people are arming up. Now, why do we have wars over and over? Well, this has been discussed and gone over many times. Is basically the human brain, believe it or not, is not made to think. It's made to survive and to avoid spending too much energy thinking too hard. You would think by now, we're heading towards a war here. You want to, nobody, because then you'll be like a bunch of monks sitting around just thinking. Hey, Liam, thanks for coming up. And that's unfortunate, right? That so when you're in a situation like that, what can you do? Well, I need to understand what's happening so I could take advantage of. What can I do right now? Well, it looks like they're going to be spending a lot more money on weaponry in Europe and defense. Okay. In the U.S., big dire need of rare earth mineral. So how do I take advantage of that? That's the idea, right? Lots of, well, I don't know if lots of money is coming to the U.S. yet, and we'll have to see exactly what it is. But you have to be careful, right? Because all of these things that we're monitoring in this, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel. All of those things that we're monitoring on this channel in terms of risk, potential risk, is like 10 of them, the inflation, the stock market, and all that, rely heavily every day more and more. And you could see around the president, right, his ability to get things done. Once he get that piece, I don't know how he's going to do it, but although he doesn't give up, as we know, so he's going to get it done somehow. The thing is, if he loses his base, right? Then he loses the power. And if he loses the power, this whole thing just, right? Because Europe said, I'm going to give you 750. If Trump, quote unquote, loses his power for whatever reason, I'm not actually going to give you $750 billion. I mean, first of all, what I'm talking about is Europe said they're going to give the US $750 billion. They're going to buy $750 billion worth of oil and gas and energy. They don't use, I think, like $100 billion a year or something like that. So that means 750 over 3 years. I mean, they've committed to spend $250 billion a year, which is way beyond what they need. Are they actually going to? They could have said, I'm going to buy $10 billion a year. I'm going to buy $1 trillion a year, right? But I can't. I can't use that much. So the number of 250 sounds probably a little bit better. But how much of it are they actually going to buy? The 600 billion that they're supposed to invest, that's from private companies in Europe. They also need to decide. The $550 billion from Japan, and these are loans. That's not a cash amount. So all these things, right? We are hearing and it's moving, and you're gonna have to find out what is really going on. How much money is actually happening? They had promised $500 billion in AI infrastructure at the beginning of the year. They haven't really done much of anything yet. They will build data centers. Well, how much? Remember, China in 2020 had promised $200 or $300 billion of purchase of oil, and it never did any of it, or most of it wasn't done. So that's what they say, but what happens? But that's okay. They could talk, because then you're there, you're investing, you're getting a job, right? Where should you be working? But you need to understand what's happening, which is very difficult to do because no one tells you exactly what is happening, unfortunately. And that is a shame, I think. And I want my subscribers to understand what is happening. So, and the channel itself, what is the channel about? The channel is about one thing and one thing only: understanding what is going on. So we're following what's going on in the economy. So far, we're doing great. What's going on with inflation? We're doing great. Unemployment, great. Stock market, great, right? But I don't want to know what's happening today, because it's already happening. I want to know what's going to happen tomorrow, right? Because that's what the black swan is about. The black swan is that everybody thinks, oh, we're going to have white swans all over the world. There's no black swan. There are black swans. Nobody believed there was such a thing, but there is. And then, do you really want to find out where it is? No. And we need to find out where's that thing that we don't expect. Like for example, COVID was a black swan. Look how that ended up. The 2008 financial crisis, that was a black swan. And look what happened. People lost their jobs. People lost money in the market. It changed your life forever. People didn't want to buy houses anymore. That's why most people rent nowadays, because of the 2008 financial crisis. And that is the mission of this channel, to explain to you what is going on. Not so much to tell you what's going on, because you get that all day long. You open the news, they tell you exactly what's happening. At least, well, look, it's simple, right? If I look at this newspaper, you could see that the way the news is being portrayed is very, very biased. And the reason it's biased is, frankly, you made it that way because they want to tell you what you want to hear. Otherwise, you're not going to buy, right? For example, when they asked Trump whether he'd rule out U.S. troops as part of security guarantee, a reporter asked Mr. Trump whether he'd rule out U.S. troops as part of security guarantees to deter further depredation from Vladimir Putin. There's going to be a lot of help, he said. They are first line of defense because they're there. They are Europe, but we are going to help them out also. We'll be involved. So basically saying, I'm not sending any soldiers there, okay? The Europeans want to give protection. They feel very strong, and we'll help them out with that. He offered no specifics, and the details will matter. He declined to exclude American support, and this is welcome realism about what is will take to gain a durable peace in Ukraine. He isn't looking for a peace accord that only lasts for 2 years. He wants something that lasts. I mean, a deal that offers a credible deterrent to Putin. But the U.S. will have to be involved in more than a token way, right? So they all know it. He knows it. They know it. Putin knows it. Everyone knows. They know that it's not going to happen, right? But so what is the point of all that? Well, the point, believe it or not, is who's pushing that machine forward, right? You need to understand that you've got the MAGA people on the right. They're saying, "Yeah, you keep talking. I don't mind because we know that you want the Nobel Peace Prize. We don't want any troops. You want to spend money." The defense people over there, the companies are doing. I think the stocks are up 75%. Okay, so be careful. You have to pick which one you want. Okay, can you imagine? Come on. I mean, it's not fair because don't forget whatever is happening right now. That would have happened regardless if you had the Trump or no Trump, right? It's just the way he goes about it. Obviously, it's his own style. Maybe he's going too fast. Maybe he's too loud, right? But even Biden himself, he tried to do the Chip Act to help out the semiconductors. What Trump is doing, the administration, they say we're going to put 100% tariffs on semiconductors. But what I'm feeling right now, though, I think this whole tariff thing has been going on for month and month and month. He's getting tired, and I think you're going to see more of JD and you're going to see more of Rubio coming up and kind of saying, okay, you know what, let's support you in these final moments towards your peace prize. Because once he gets a peace prize, what else is there, right? I mean, this is it for him. I mean, but be careful because you don't want to end up holding a bag of doo-doo when it's all done, right? Because, yeah, he won the Peace Prize, and he's going to say America's going to do this and that, although we're not going to put soldiers, but the Europe are not going to accept any of that. They're going to say, no, I want you in there. But we know what you want, right? You want the peace? Well, then you bring your soldiers in the middle. I'll give up some territory, but then you got to put your guys in the middle. And, of course, he can't do that. And he's got to be very, very careful because then I will tell you, that Steve Bannon said yesterday. I mean, you may like the guy, you may not like, but the point, he represents the MAGA, the ultimate, right? They're fearing that this thing could morph into a NATO-style commitment to Ukraine. So that's why they're going very slowly. Yeah, no U.S. soldiers. Well, then there's no peace, right? And these people know what happened the last time. They were told they had security guarantees, and you know what happened to them. So very slowly, you're being walked slowly, not fast, and nobody's saying anything. Nobody's saying no. Everybody's saying, yeah, maybe, who knows? Well, it's like a date where you're not going to get married, but you're moving along. You're not disagreeing, and slowly but surely you're getting there. How long that's going to last? But wars have started for worse reasons than that. So let's keep that around. All right, my friends. I will see you this afternoon for more talks.